welcome, day 2, demonstration 3. Good morning, everybody. Does that make you feel like you have to be quiet when I turn that on a little bit? I can maybe turn it on and just forget, yeah. Great. So I always feel like it's a little bit easier on the second day. Not to set you up now to feel like it's easier, I don't know, everyone has their own different thing, but it's like you've broken the back of it on the first day and you can kind of, there's fewer variables to contend with when you're not coming somewhere new and having to find your space and all the rest of it. So just take your time, Veronica, there's no rush. So I've just put some cadmium red on the brush here because I feel like I want to just do something fairly swiftly early on. Let's see now, I've put it up and down the way because it feels to me like it's generally, I just feel like I want to go, it could be square, it's like yours yesterday, Chris, It could be square really. But I think if I start the vase halfway up or a bit closer up the way, I can make something of the tabletop then. And still have quite a bit of space for the flowers. Okay. It's a funny thing, like starting. The thing of actually hitting the page with the colour. And I think I want to say something about that because I can see myself dancing around until I feel now it's the time. There's something about kind of working up and then committing to the mark. And I think it's to do with absorbing what's here as well. Like I'm noticing, there we are, I'm noticing the orange is so lovely and orange, like it's really bold right there in the middle. Okay, so let's do that. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'll do the tabletop thing. We've run out of masking tape.
There's loads that I use mine.
Is there loads? Oh my goodness, look at that.
My husband had it taken away in the sheds.
Heavy duty masking tape. It's okay, I think I'll just use this. I'm not gonna press it too hard, so hopefully it'll sit alright and it won't tear it off. Your husband has a stash of masking tape in the shed.
I've got a thin roll.
Oh, okay. And now I want to do the tabletop, and again I'm just going to forget that it's got corners on it and everything. I want it to be quite clear. There's something clear in the in the horizontal. I don't know if I keep talking about Rothko. I love Rothko's paintings. Sometimes those horizontal abstract. He sometimes will have like a bright red on top and a yellow on the bottom and a line of white through it. There's something appealing in that for some reason. That kind of feels appealing to me. So I wonder if that's maybe why I'm wanting to do that today. Now what I'm looking for there now is looking for yellow ochre. Yeah, because I think that's too bright a yellow for what's there. That would work for the bright petals on the sunflowers, but I think it's really more one year we had a flower painting workshop and everyone was using a lot of collage, and by the end of the week there was a massive pile of paper in the middle of the floor and people were in there kind of trying to find, there's something in that kind of crouching low to the ground and back to nursery school stuff in a way that after a while it starts to, it's just fun, isn't it? It's that kind of hunter-gatherer trying to find the berries maybe, that instinct that we have. Okay, so yellow ochre. You see, I think that's a better colour for the shadows on the tabletop. Okay. So just to have some kind of a beginning there. I'm going to use a thicker brush now with some water on it. And just see what happens there. It's great fun, to be honest. There's something very, Actually, I was going to ask you this morning if you might do a bit of qigong with us out in the... you spoke about...
Yes.
I don't know. We'll see. If you feel like you need the energy after lunch or something. because I think it's a great release to just to move, isn't it? Okay. And I think what I'd like to do there now as well is to put maybe I'll put some of this across, because we know there's a seam here. There's a seam. Oh, we didn't do any timing, did we? Do you want maybe 10 more minutes? Is that okay? Thanks, Veronica. Been very quiet today.
I'm very well behaved today. Definitely going to be.
You heard it here.
I'm a teacher's pet.
You heard it here first.
Yesterday. Yes, I'm not going to say that to you.
Okay, so there we have it. And then there's the other red flower up there. And there's a red flower over there, isn't there? So we can start to move up and out. And then, what about the green? Like you pointed out yesterday, Pat, it's a different green. And I think there's not as much dark green as there was in the lily leaves yesterday. And you know, this green is probably looking like it could be. I'm just going to take this. Yeah, so the idea today, I found one of these at home. So speak to me if you've not got something you can hold in your hand to mix your colours. And I've got things that you can have, because I think it is useful to be able to do this, to hold your palette up and see the colour that you're aiming for as you're making it. And to have something on the table that's like your reservoir, and have nothing else on the table that's unnecessary. So your tubes of paint can be on the ground. Use the space, you know, make it easy for yourself. You want things to be easily accessible. And I was going to say something too about the position that you occupy at the easel. Mm-hmm. And if you're right-handed, and this is for everybody really, I meant to say this yesterday, just set yourself up so that you can see the flowers and see your board really by only moving your eyes. Now we know that it's helpful to stay limbered up and physically move, but when you steady yourself to see, you want to be able to see the flowers and see your board by only moving your eyes, so that you can transfer the information directly. There's not any kind of pause to switch around and draw down, you know. And I like to look out the left side as I'm right-handed, because it feels to me like I'm open then to both the flowers and the page. I'm not working over my arm.
Of course, that's what I do.
But some people
I don't
do
know why
that.
I know, but I understand what you're saying. I always end up doing that.
Yeah.
Mind you, I use both hands.
Oh,
Sometimes.
yeah. But I think some people do find it quite, they're really, really happy doing that.
Yeah, your hand is
Catherine as well, I think.
It might depend on which is your dominant eye, because your dominant eye can be different from your dominant hand.
Is that right?
Yeah, because I'm left-eyed, right?
Yeah,
Right.
so am I.
Oh.
I never heard of that before, isn't it,
You can
guys?
do a test thing. I've got an
Your
astigmatism
left
in my
eye.
right eye, so my left eye's much stronger. So I'm left-eyed.
Right.
So if I'm trying to do something like archery, it's a nightmare.
That's the eye that you would keep open and close the other one. Right.
Isn't
That's
that
interesting.
gas?
It's also common with dyslexia.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Dominant left eye as well. Which runs in our family.
My goodness, so this is enlightening to me now to hear that, all that carry on. And I suppose in the end of all of it, the best thing to do is to try it out, both ways
And see
maybe,
Yeah.
and just to tune in and see how you feel, or even just knowing that you're left-eyed, you might know that you're happier looking out the
But in
left
some
side.
ways, looking at the left side is better if I'm left-eyed, because then you're looking more
Yeah.
at the
Okay.
flowers.
Yeah, geez, you'd be on fire today, so you're gonna put the easel to your right-hand side. You'll
I
have
will
your-
try it and see how I get on.
I do like the feeling of being open to both. There's something about fully occupying this space that contains the view of the flowers and your picture, and you know, that's what appeals to me about that. But I actually completely get the other way, because I've seen people operating much happier looking over their arm. You know, I've seen the work that they make, and it's great. So just do what feels right for you. But this is what I do. Okay. Honest to God. I'll sleep well tonight again. Okay. What was I saying about so the green. It's a slightly lighter green than we used yesterday. So I've put some Well, that's just the hooker's green on its own. And I still think that it's helpful for the green that's the first green that you put down to not be so colourful, so that it sits back and it's like the first layer. So I think it's
brown.
so I added brown to that, yeah. So I think that's Van Dyke brown that I have. It could be burnt umber as well that you might use. And that's the hooker's green, which I see as being quite similar to the Viridian green. I don't know which one I put on the list. But a dark green and dark brown together will, I think it just subdues the green. The brown, you know, it just makes it more, sit back a little bit more. So now I'm going to half close my eyes and consider the position of the leaves. Rather than think of them as leaves even, just consider, you know, there's a small kind of triangle of green here, and then there's a longer bit here and in between them, you know, so it's that kind of thing that I'm looking at shape rather than seeing leaves. And certainly not seeing individual leaves. It's just seeing the whole area of green. And knowing that I can lift out with the paper towel, or I can, you know, the different ways that we discovered of making light flowers happen over dark leaves as well. I don't feel I have to keep be too careful about the position of the green. And I think it's always quite a nice thing to expand beyond and then come back in, rather than to start small and extend and extend and extend. There's something in the energy of that it contains that in the mark in the end, even if you take most of it away or somehow subdue the length of it. Yeah, I suppose it's the same as the wild goose thing, isn't it?
And did you add water to that, or is it quite dry?
Do you know, I've added no water. What I did was I washed the brush, but I used so it's a brush like this one. Thanks for saying that, Veronica, because the consistency of paint is huge. Like, it's really important, I think, to talk about that too. So dry the brush off almost completely, like, and then
what I do wrong.
sometimes it can make it quite thin
Yeah.
and take a while to dry if it's a bit wet.
Yeah.
And then just pick up the paint so that there's no
Mm-hmm.
water really at all on there. And you'll know the feeling of it if it starts to get too dry. What I do is just put more paint on rather than more water in this instance anyway. Okay. And there's some green up there. Now, you see there, I did actually put water. Starting to notice what I'm doing now. It's desperate, isn't it? But yeah, I did put water in because
Sometimes you need it.
because I wanted to get something darker for that leaf that's back there. And then what I'm going to do now that I just kind of noticed the shape of that leaf, I'll just pull it, you know, create the shape of it now that I can. And then the sunflower is going to sit there.
And is that paper towel wet?
It's damp, yeah, so when I dried the brush with. So it is, yeah. You wouldn't be able to get it off if it was dry, I'd say. Because when the paint goes on dry, you have to be fairly swift to lift off with the damp paper towel. But you can usually manage it, like if you dig into it, like I'm just trying to get, so, you know, the shape for the sunflower is there as well. Like if you go 3 or 4 times with the wet paper towel, you can manage to lift it off. I'm just wondering to myself if the sea swim and then the strong coffee upstairs was maybe just a little bit too much. It's slightly like wired. Okay. One, you know, either one on their own might have been fine. Okay. So they're the 2 areas for the sunflowers kind of thing. Yeah, it doesn't even have to be. Sometimes having something dark underneath the sunflower will push you to use collage or try different things. So it's not as though you have to lift out, like for example there now I can't lift out that yellow for that flower, so I need to think outside the box and try and find a different way of making that yellow happen. You can maybe use. And it's worth really noticing the different yellows and finding ones that will work for each flower, not just accepting second best there, but really try and get the character of the particular flower that you're working with and the colour of it. Okay. You know, I think I might just even stick it down like that. And give myself the challenge kind of having to make it work. And there's one turn to the side up there as well. I'm not really wiping my hands on this. My first time using this. Well, there's paint on it already. It's my pajamas actually. Oh, thanks. Oh, is that the time? My goodness. So I'm going to go on for another little while. Is that okay? Like 5 minutes?
Do you want it timed? Yeah.
Just 5 minutes. And I want to do a small bit more on that and maybe something to do with the sunflowers as well. Thanks, Veronica. 5 minutes.
Okay. I'll start when you start.
Okay. So the next thing I feel like I want to do, like when you do something somewhere, you can leave it alone to breathe for a minute and then try and move somewhere else. And do your best to not judge what's already happened and just kind of let it be. And then, you know, there's something in that, I think, just abandoning it once you've done it, leave it alone and go somewhere different maybe. Just for the centre of the sunflower there, and then the same colours in the centre of the sunflower up here. So that's the ultramarine blue and Van Dyke brown together that made the sunflower centre. Yeah, and regularly standing back really helps as well, of course, you know that. I'm just going to lift off using the brush to get the edge. And I might as well put on some yellow. I see it looking at me there on the palette, just quite similar to the yellow of the back of the sunflower, I think there. And that's the thing of extending beyond, again, knowing that you could use a brush or you could use an Alison rag, you know, to bring your edges in again. And I think I'll carry on with that colour around here. Even although it gets lighter, it's quite a good colour for underneath the lighter ones, which could be made with yeah. Like the lighter stuff is kind of in between the two, isn't it? In between the two yellow colours, I mean, the lighter petals here. And kind of exciting how they overlap the centre. Sometimes you might use the white edge when you tear it. Might be quite nice if it's a light petal on this side. You might want to use the torn edge bits. Yeah, and it's another thing. The collage is another thing that you kind of want to put it on and abandon it. Like, I think Leonardo da Vinci said that apparently about his paintings. A painting is never finished; it's simply abandoned. And I feel like it's quite a nice thing to consider in every mark. To just abandon it, for feck's sake, it's done now. Leave it alone. Go on to the next thing, and make yourself have to respond to it when it's, you know, when it's called for. So there might be things like that. Feels exciting to me. That thing of having to, the surprise really of, you know, something new happening. And if you're painting, doing this a lot, like you'll have to kind of almost work harder to create surprise for yourself. You have to really keeping, I think, yeah, while it can be exhausting as well, like it's really good to keep yourself on edge a little bit, I think, and not to feel complacent about any, I say that, like, I say that, and there's days when I really wish that I could just kind of calmly, you know, not have to. But I think you notice it as soon, you kind of notice your energy drop if you're becoming a bit bored, and you want to feel inspired. I feel like, you know, and look at this, like, there's so much there that can be drawn. yeah, it's a real gift of a subject, all that colour, and you can bring your own carry on to it. Just lifting off. So that, I'd say the timer's going to go any second now. I was wanting to talk to you a little bit about what to do next there, and I thought that the ink with the stick might be a nice thing. You might, you know, something like that could be used to distinguish one flower from another. Or you could use your non-dominant hand and draw with an oil pastel. Well, actually, I'll use my work for the centre of the flower there. Not really. What was I saying? Yeah, so you could use your non-dominant hand to draw with. See if you can surprise yourself a small bit. So using the yellow ochre then for the back of that flower there. And you could always then put a bit of yellow onto it too. And then what I've got here is the chalks and the oil pastels over to the side there. You can use them when you want to yourselves as well. And then we've got a chance to use things like a bit of collage. So see all the potential, see all the available ingredients for your painting, and consider bringing new things into the mix. Keep yourself, you know, I don't mean on edge, keep yourself kind of, you know, give yourself the opportunity to shine, because you know things that make you sing kind of in your soul, and you can grapple for stuff that'll let that happen on the paper best you can. I mean, I know it's a big ask, but it's not really. You'll do it. Like if you kind of, you'll find your way with things. It's good fun, isn't it? Just having colours and torn paper and ink and pastels and all that stuff. And I'm going to put them there, and you know, feel free to take whatever you need. You'll have your own materials too that'll be exciting to you. But let yourself play. Don't feel like I want to make this flower botanically correct. Consider instead what it is that makes you like what you love about it, and do your best then to punch that onto the page or something. It feels like an awfully big thing to be suggesting to you. I think you'll be fine once you get going though. Like having seen your work yesterday and what you're capable of doing, just let yourself do that. Like let yourself just be free. And as well as that, be attentive. It's not just abandon everything. You're being attentive to what's there. I don't want to be stripping off like, way. But you know, you're attentive and steady in yourself as you're looking, and then just honour the moment of noticing and move. You know, whatever it is that you've pulled out from that moment, then commit and decide, be decisive from there. And it'll happen automatically. If we let ourselves do it, it just kind of happens, I feel like. Something like that. So thanks very much for your attention. Yeah, off you go now.